me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
I know a lot of you are thinking, where are we going to get the manpower? We have huge efficiencies coming our way through AI and robotics. I know this, but for now, it's super hard to govern without understanding that in a more meaningful way. So until then, until the robots are coming, doing things for 40 cents an hour, maintaining the parks for, practically nothing. Until that day comes, we have to be responsible stewards of what we have, and we should be looking for efficiencies. And so I think if we can get speakers to come and speak about how do we run our parks efficiently, get people in here like Jamie to talk about how we can spot the early signs of, hey, you're about to strike an iceberg here if you keep this behavior up. All right. Hello, this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I know this is a busy time of year. We had a guest scheduled, but he had to reschedule because, as you know, in Parks and Rec, sometimes your calendar is not your own and you can get called in to pick a crisis. So we will reschedule for a later date, but I'm actually glad because, or not glad, but I have another great topic that I wanted to cover today while I have this opportunity of not having a guest with us. I had a great conversation with Jamie Sabak. If you haven't looked at her work, she is the principal of 110% Inc. And she has been a director. She was a previous guest on our show, and I think I'd like to have her on a few more times to really understand her viewpoint in Parks and Recs. So she has been kind of highlighting the financial crisis, you could say, that a lot of Parks and Recs are facing by maybe expanding themselves and pushing themselves to just do more, to have more parks, to have more land developed, and just piling on present and future responsibilities onto a strained system. And I think, and I'm still trying to really wrap my mind around it. Now, those of you that are familiar with me and my background, I come from the private sector, and I was previously a manufacturer of LED lights, this guy right here. And so I have been running private companies my entire life. And so now that I have kind of semi-retired from that, and I'm taking it upon myself to build a media company for the Parks and Rec community and finding out what the needs are, what the story is, what the value we bring to the community. Of course, I run across Miss Jamie Sabak and listen to her work. And lo and behold, the public sector, here we are struggling with the same stuff that I always struggled with in business, that have to run a profitable business. Of course, we don't have in the private sector any tax revenue that can kind of compensate for, anything that we have. We don't have somebody coming to bail us out. You literally have to survive off of what you kill. And if you don't kill, you don't eat, kind of thing. Whereas, Parks and Recreation is given many times a pretty healthy tax base, and you're basically a public servant that's working in public lands and trying to deliver these goods and services both in the needs and the wants, or the wants and the needs category. But just as in business, it's so common that we can overextend ourselves, make promises that are either super challenging to keep or maybe even not our problem, because the problem happens when you commit yourself to something big, but that has repercussions that many times are like 20 years. And so let me explain that a little bit. Imagine that you commit yourself to a big project, say a big sports tourism complex. but you really don't quite understand the maintenance budget. And then during the construction phase and during the fundraising phase, you really only focus on getting it built, getting it going, really no more than the 1 or 2 years after it's built done. And many of the stakeholders and benefactors and funding sources are really only concerned with the ribbon cutting ceremony and maybe a little bit after that. Um, and so what we're finding is that there's not a lot of budget, both in manpower, um, maintenance budget to keep these facilities going. And Jamie has centered her company, as I learn more, and hopefully Jamie will correct me if I'm wrong, but she has identified that many Parks and Rec agencies have either inherited or are creating a future crisis, a financial crisis. And so, because this industry is so near and dear to her heart, she does not want to see bankruptcies happening. And then I also had a great talk with Liddy Gutfeld out in California, who inherited literally her day one was a bankrupt agency, a bankrupt Parks and Rec department. When I say bankrupt, like filed for bankruptcy. And then that was her day one, and now she's having to rebuild it. And I love her story. We just barely hinted on that. So I'm gonna have Liddy back to really let's do a deeper dive in what's called the turnaround. And what do I mean by turnaround? You inherit a sinking ship. You inherit something that's in financial crisis. A team is retiring, and unfortunately, maybe through no cause of their own, we're not even looking to point the finger. It is what it is. This park system is struggling. Not enough man hours, not enough money, can't deliver on promises made. And this is the environment that you've inherited. So, what we're starting to see, from what I understand, is more and more departments finding themselves in this predicament. So, what do? You just step, your day one is you just stepped on the Titanic, it's going down. what are, how do we turn this ship around? Can we turn this ship around? And Jamie has really dedicated her company to taking hard looks at these scenarios. So she's going to find companies that, I mean, excuse me, she's going to find agencies that are sinking, like literally in bankruptcy, going towards bankruptcy, or maybe if we don't do something about this now, we're going to end up in bankruptcy and everything in between. Or maybe just say healthy agencies that don't want to go that route, that want to be good stewards, that want to make sure that we can deliver on the services, especially the needs. Because some parks departments, if you look at all the services you provide as an agency and you start creating different categories, and one category can be what are the needs of our community and what are the wants of our community. You could say after school care could be what we would want to earmark as a need. Anything to do with the seniors, we can mark that as a need. Maybe even a lot of the maintenance is going to be like you got to cut the grass. If you don't cut the grass on some of these fields, you can literally destroy millions of dollars worth of healthy grass and sod and stuff. And so, are we able to at least as a city, as a park system, cover the needs? Can we write checks for this? Do we have like where's the money coming from? Here's the big question. Where's the money coming from? And we should all be able to take a hard look at our finances, our bookkeeping, our future income, and what are the things we want to look for that are signals, that are red flags that we want to say, hold up, before we develop a new property and add more workload and more financial commitment to an already strained budget. Maybe we're heavily depending on tax revenue, and we don't know if we're coming into a recession. We don't know, perhaps the town doesn't really want a lot of these wants. Maybe these are we got a really heavy want category. And can we keep the things that are vital to our community? Maybe it's park maintenance, maybe it's services that people really depend on. um, that you provide. And maybe it's not time to start some big festival or fair or event, unless it's, of course, a moneymaker. Then that changes the equation altogether. But I just think, as I was talking to her and listening to Liddy, this is what I love. Obviously, being an entrepreneur my whole life, this is what we do day and night. And I always gravitated towards righting the ship, pulling up out of the nosedive. Let's do a big turnaround. And I can tell you, I have interviewed people that I would label them as turnaround specialists. They they come into these communities, they rewrite the ship, they change the culture. Lydia is a great example of this, and I've got a few others that we could highlight just so that we can let's just keep this conversation going. Let's not avoid this topic. This is what we do. We're not here for just ribbon cutting ceremonies. We're not here for just all the fun and joy. That's certainly um like Jamie said, this industry leads with its heart, and that's good. That's obviously why so many people stay in this industry. But at the same time, we have to be responsible stewards, looking at the hard numbers and making sure that we can survive, and that we're not going to have to start massive layoffs and slashing services, especially in the needs category. And look, guys, most of this stuff you can see coming at you years in advance. The only time this really gives any agency any real trouble is when you just have been neglecting looking at these hard numbers and not seeing what was in front of you, or avoiding, facing the accounting department and and unfortunately saying yes too many times. Now, municipal government, Parks and Rec, listen, this is the whole human condition when driving organizations, that you can't growth can be a destroying force. Growth is not necessarily good. I know we all like to see things grow. We like to see a new playground. We like to see a new splash pad. But remember, cutting the grass is a lot cheaper than maintaining a splash pad and the chemicals that go with it and the specialists to keep those chemicals balanced and stuff. Same thing for a swimming pool. There's a lot of effort that goes into running more and more complex um, real estate, and that all falls on the shoulder of the captain of the ship, the park and rec director, and his team underneath them. And so, I love this conversation. I literally, as I was building out this community, I'm like, I'm kind of coming in as somewhat of an investigative reporter. It's just a passion of mine I want to do. But I wonder if my entrepreneurial background would ever be of use to this population. And man, when I started talking to Jamie, I'm like, boy, now you are speaking my language. And I would love to see how I can keep this conversation going. Maybe a day a week. We just talk about the numbers. We talk about the future sustainability. And what do we mean when we're talking about sustainability? Of course, I come from the energy sector. Of course, everyone knows I was a huge, still am, a very big Bitcoiner. I was an electrical engineer by trade, and I dealt with power production constantly. And the energy sector is expanding. It's exploding, and we just need more and more and more energy. And, you know, as we look at the cost of things and the cost of running and operating things, it's really important that we stay focused on the numbers. Devin Stadler, hold on, let me not mispronounce his name. I've got so many names here, and I make good connections with these people, but I swear it's so hard to keep up. I think yes, we are coming up on our 100th episode. Um, but yeah, Devin definitely did a deep dive into his community. It was Stadler. And he's just a great example of somebody that has an accounting background, um, and really understands from a budget standpoint what he can say yes to, what he can say no to, what he can do really well. He's certain that he can continue to deliver the needs to the community, and we can still have some wants in there, but you have to be good at saying, yes, no, we're going to have to wait. Let's do these things first. Let's shore up this economy here. Let's not be so heavily dependent on the tax revenue because that's not promised, that's not guaranteed. And then I think if we can take communities like Devin and Jamie with her wisdom and Liddy as case studies, and then I was talking to Sevi the other day about this exact same topic, and he's like, Craig, we have some parks departments that are recovering over 100% of of their their economy, over 100%. He even had one, he said they recaptured 350%. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is number one, let's go cherry pick. So if anyone's got someone out there, here's the homework for everybody. If anyone's got any contacts or any department that was a sinking ship out of bankruptcy, as terrible as it can be, whatever, worst case scenario, and then they recovered. Let's highlight that story. How did they recover? How did they sink? First of all, what did they do wrong? Was it neglect? Was it overpromising? Did the tax revenue get ripped out from underneath them? What went wrong? Let's do case studies on this. And then how did we recover from this? And with 10,000 nationwide cities running these experiments of how we handle all the above, still trying to deliver goods and services, there's got to be 100 of these that have gone through tragedy and had to rebuild themselves. Now, of course, Jamie's company is about let's prevent this. let's get ahead of this and make sure that if it's preventable, and most of this is like anything else, anything can be turned around. A lot of it's just I don't want to say bad behavior, but if you just don't know any better, you come from maybe a very strong economy that's booming and wants to invest in their community, and they've just got money coming out of the sidewalks kind of stuff. Okay, but is that everybody's situation? And you just can't manage a city as if there's literally money falling from the sky. We can build anything we want. Let's just make this, the Garden of Paradise. There are some cities like that, but those are not. Those are just a small subset of the entire nation's Parks and Rec community. And for the rest of us, we do need to stay focused on the numbers, making sure that we can deliver the goods and services that the community expects, especially the ones that we need. So I would really like to start highlighting that. Lydia, I'm coming after you for that testimony there. Sevi's also got a good one. And then I think who was it? Napa Valley was another great turnaround story that I think it was Jamie was telling me about yesterday. So anyway, if you have anyone in this arena that has done well, that has turned things around, that has maybe been part of a sinking ship, and they can just say, hey, here were the early signs that had we paid attention to earlier, had we done something about, maybe it wouldn't have been so tragic, that we can just highlight. And so that way we can raise awareness around, have these conversations around, hey, we have to keep these park systems healthy financially if we're going to keep this going. And maybe we have too much land undeveloped, and undeveloped wooded land is a night and day difference to maintain than developed parks that need, constant maintenance and trash to be taken out of, and sidewalk and parking lot problems, and electricians and plumbers, running around the whole place, keeping it going, swing sets breaking, all that kind of stuff. When you develop a piece of land and you put a swing set on it, a bathroom on it, a parking lot on it, and you have foot traffic on it, you are demanding future man hours. You are, that swing set is going to break. Some service tech is going to have to go replace that light fixture. Some sewer problems going to happen. All this is going to be a future burden. And if you don't have this unrealized liabilities, and there's a topic we don't talk about enough, unrealized liability. What is a liability? It's your problem. It's a problem. You have to deal with this. This is something that's going to take money and manpower, a liability. Unfunded liabilities means that you may have deferred maintenance that you just keep kicking down the road. So you're allowing the park system, Mother Nature is constantly clawing at all the above, except maybe the trees. They're the only ones that don't care. Now, I know some of my urban forestry people would panic and say, "Wait a minute, we need money to maintain these trees' beauty." But I know a lot of these oak trees are going on before and after. But as you develop this land, as you put more assets on it, you have to take into consideration future maintenance liabilities, unfunded liabilities, and that's a big one. Deferred maintenance is a topic that um, I want to start talking more about. I think this is something that I can bring to the community. This is something I've always enjoyed. I love looking at numbers. I dream in spreadsheets. For all of my spreadsheet buddies out there, you're not the only one. But for the rest of you that hate spreadsheets, there are among us that love to kind of analyze the numbers, to take a hard look at them, and to just govern by the math, govern by the data, data driven decisions, number driven decisions. We would like to say yes, but our numbers are telling us no. And so, what are you going to do? Are you going to say yes in the face of you don't have any future funding for this? Or are you going to go to and look, this is not the sexiest part of Parks and Recreation. It's not as glamorous to ask for funding to maintain what we have as it is to do groundbreaking ceremonies on a new playground in a neighborhood park. Um, you know, uh, but that is the responsible thing to do. And that is, and I think if you just communicate this with the community, um, and look, I know a lot of efficiencies are heading y'all's way. And I know a lot of you are thinking, where are we going to get the manpower? Where are we going to, we have huge efficiencies coming our way through AI and robotics. I know this. But for now, it's super hard to govern without an understanding that in a more meaningful way. So until then, until the robots are coming, doing things for 40 cents an hour, maintaining the parks for, you know, practically nothing. Until that day comes, we have to be responsible stewards of what we have, and we should be looking for efficiencies. Now, that can be one of the solutions. I know right now there's a huge wave of robotic lawnmowers that can cut grass at a fraction of the cost of humans cutting grass. And so there's one example. What are some of the turnaround mechanisms that create efficiencies in your department? Is there something that you're doing that you could third party this out and much more efficiently? Close or one of the first people, Mr. Over in, oh my gosh, Chris Noons over in, oh, what's the name of his park? The Woodlands north of Houston, is a master at a lot of this stuff, being able to third party this out. I also have a lot of connections over here in Louisiana that have done an amazing job. I need to get Ricky Compton over here. He is a major turnaround artist in this arena of Parks and Rec, especially in managing grass cutting in a super efficient way. And so I think if we can get speakers to come and speak about how do we run our parks efficiently, um, get people in here like Jamie to talk about how we can spot the early signs of, hey, you're about to strike an iceberg here if you keep this behavior up. How do we communicate this not so glamorous but popular message to the stakeholders, to the politicians? This is not something that people often get elected on, which is, hey, I'm going to run an election on maintaining what we have. Most people want to promise, especially in politics, they want to promise more handouts. They want to promise more parks, more clean. We're going to build things, and certainly that has its place in some communities. But a lot of you are looking at. I mean, raise your hand if you have aging infrastructure that needs attention, that needs maintenance. I can tell you from my end, I used to manufacture LED lights, and I did this for industry and heavy commercial. And The park system is so far behind in updating their LED light, their old metal halide lights to LED lights. Um, it's comical. I see systems that I'm like, those lights look like they're 40 years old, 30 years. Like I'm shocked at how they keep finding bulbs and ballasts to replace stuff with. I'm like, why aren't they using moving to LED lights that are have no maintenance costs, none, like literally none. You put that light up 40 years later, it goes out. 30 years, I mean, it's crazy. And they're very affordable. And so I'm asking myself, why are they not maintaining these parks in such a simple, but by just replacing the lights, that would slash maintenance budget. It also cut your electric bill in a third. As a one example, coming from my world into this one, it always shocked me why the maintenance just kept getting kicked down the road. And that's not the only one. That's not the only arena. So I think if we can just maybe start in similar conversations onto ways that we can run our parks more efficient, ways that we can have cost savings, ways that we can maybe recover some of that cost. So the topics would be cost recovery, cost savings. Um, let's take a look at our fees. You know, are we giving? I get it if you have a $15 charge for a community center. That's kind of like a YMCA or something that other private organizations might charge $80 a month because you don't want to exclude people. You're trying to include the less fortunate in the services we offer. But at the same time, are people that can afford to pay the $70, are they also getting the $15 benefit? And maybe that's a way that we can say, hey, if you can carry a little bit more, carry a little bit more. If we don't need that service, let's just cancel it. Let's just delete. Okay. If we've got all this land that we're having to maintain and foot traffic is down to nothing, sell the park. Just sell it. Okay. If you have to kind of, cut off your hand to save the whole body, sometimes you got to cut off your hand. Not a popular decision, but it's also not popular for the entire ship to go into bankruptcy. And I just look at it as, hey, this is a fun adventure. We're getting ready to have a blast riding this ship, and we're all going to feel very proud that we saved something that's near and dear to the community. And we now have cash in the bank, and we're on sure footing, and we have a bright future that's going to be able to be sustained. And I'd love to orchestrate and be a part of this conversation. This is actually my background. This is actually what I have done as an entrepreneur, had these very tough conversations with myself, with my team. I've been a part of failing businesses. I've been a part of successful businesses. I've come up and tried to have helped in turning businesses around. And I'm so, in a way, I'm kind of glad to see that we're not the only ones that are. And so just because you have tax revenue funding you, y'all can have these problems too, because it doesn't matter how much money you throw at a system. If you've got somebody that's just spending constantly on the front end, committing your organization to and not funding these future liabilities, there's no amount of tax revenue that eventually, is going to crush what the team that's left to maintain this. And I'm not saying there aren't these rare exceptions that are just sitting on the printing press uh, that can maybe do this. But as we see right now, our nation is struggling with having way too much debt. I think we're up to like $36 trillion in debt. And then I think we printed like a quarter of all dollars that have ever been printed in the last couple of years. So this is called the M2 money supply, expanded by 25%, I think, in 2024, or like the 2023-2024 cycle. That means dollars in circulation increased by 25%. That's a lot of cash and liquidity being thrown into this market. And where is it coming from? When you just print money, or when you make promises to a lot of people, those are called unfunded liabilities. And so little businesses are no different. The towns are no different. You cannot just hire and hire and hire and hire and hire and not expect that payroll is going to just drain your account. And is any of those hires productive for your organization? And can you maintain this? And what's your burn rate? There's another one. Do you know your burn rate? What is your burn rate and what is your runway? Which means, um, I think of a runway like a plane taking off, right? Is your runway long enough before you crash into the trees at the end of the runway? And you probably should do that calculation before you start the plane going down the runway, because the worst time to figure out, holy cow, the runway is not long enough, is when you're heading to the trees at, 90 miles an hour with a full load of passengers. Um, you can actually do those calculations before, and you can say, "Hey, we're carrying way too much weight. We need to take another 5,000 pounds out of this plane, or we're not going to take off. But we're not going to be up to speed before we hit the end of run out of runway." And so, what is the runway necessary that you need? What is the speed you need to be taking on capital so that you can stay uh, in the air, so that you can stay in flight? And a lot of times I'm shocked that, and look, don't feel bad if you are a municipal government, or if you are a private company or a public company. We all have these problems. This is a universal problem that, and you're going to be shocked at how many people, and I know, because I can probably ask every single person I interview, um, what's your burn rate? What's your turnover in employees? How many assets? What's your assets worth under management? Are you managing, $200 million worth of assets? And what is it? What are the unfunded liabilities? How much does it cost to maintain these things? Um, you know, how are you replacing staff? So when you've got older staff that are masters at what they do because of 20 years, and you're replacing them with very green people that are just coming into the industry that don't know all the ins and outs of maintaining it, obviously they're going to take longer to maintain some of these facilities than the masters that are retiring. So that means it's going to take more man hours and stuff. And so if I just start peppering any company, industry, family with the the common questions: how much money do you have in the bank? How much is coming in? How much is going out? What are your unfunded liabilities? Okay, let's take a look at these new projects you want to bring on board. How are we going to accomplish this? Who's paying for it? Where's the money coming from? You're going to see a lot of like deer in headlight moments. Welcome to the club. We've all been here. This is, I'm hopefully not covering a topic that y'all are unfamiliar with, but any industry on earth, it's healthy for them to take a look at the finances, to look at the burn rates, to look at the numbers from an accounting standpoint, to say, can we keep going? Can we manage this? What is your financial health score? What is a good financial health score for your park system? And maybe that's something, with the help of someone like Jamie and Devin and a lot of people, that this is kind of their passion. This is their specialty, that they might be able to say, if you have, plug in these 10 numbers and we're going to give you a health score as an industry. What is that score? And when you have in the red, you might not know it, but you're heading towards bankruptcy, then here are some medicines you can take. Here are some things that you're going to have to do. Either you're going to have to do it or the next guy's going to have to do it. So do you want to start making these hard decisions now? Or are you going to push this off on somebody that might not even be born yet? They might be literally 10 years old and after school care, knowing that they want to be the next park and rec director, and you're giving them a hell of a problem to deal with when they grow up and try to fill your shoes. And so we not only want to be good stewards of 2025, but we want to make sure that we give the park and rec directors coming in 2050 a fighting chance, and a good, healthy park system that is well funded and has good systems and efficiencies already in play, with a good team to run these. And this is challenging. This is challenging, but hey, I know this industry is up to the challenge, because I am staring at the leadership capacity of you people, and let me tell you, I'm impressed. This is nothing you can't handle. Don't take any of this as if doom and gloom and stuff. This is exciting. And I would suggest that everyone look at this as, I get to do this. I don't have to do this. I get to do this. I think you should have the mindset of, look, I want this to be on my watch. I don't want my children to handle this problem. I want to handle this problem. And it's going to make me a stronger person anyway. And so if you're all about personal development, which I know this industry is, then what a great place to develop yourself personally in the midst of adversity, hard decisions. That's where your strength is demanded. Certainly it's fun to have the big ribbon cutting ceremony, offer all kind of, special events and stuff like that. And certainly that's not going away, but we still have to make sure that the system's balanced and healthy. And so I'm excited about being a part of this. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to, similar to how I'm starting a show on maintenance at the 11, I may end up doing at least a once a week session just on financial sustainability, park sustainability. And we're going to keep this topic going, and I'm going to start highlighting very specific parts. So I know Friday's YPN. I really want to save more shows for the leaders and the highlighting the parks. And by the way, if you haven't seen our latest videos, Chris and Kathleen are doing just a banger job. They're doing a fantastic job on starting to really ask for video and photo and image assets for the parks and making a nice little intro promo to every one of our interviews so that we can really highlight the parks and then try to understand the story of not only the leader, that park and rec director or assistant director, but also the history of the park and what that community is like and the services they offer, because I think that's always good. Um, but I think we should balance it out with, okay, now, what are we doing to make sure that of the 10,000 parks going, that 100 of them didn't sinker this year, or maybe that I don't even know what that number is. What I would love to have just do check the vitals on all 10,000 parks and systems throughout America, county parks, city parks, towns, whatever, all this municipal government, park and recreation departments. And what's the general health of all of them? And then just rank them. And then let's start look at how serious is this problem. But if you're not looking, you're not going to find. I'm not saying you won't stumble across this or the bank doesn't show up and say, "Hey, you're done." But let's not wait till that happens. Um, and then let's start celebrating the turnarounds. Let's start showcasing the ones that are doing excellent jobs in cost recovery, that have plenty of funding for future maintenance. And then let's try to emulate and then look for best practices around this. This is something to be excited about. And I'm glad Jamie, I think for quite some time, has been sounding the alarm, saying, guys, we're sinking as an industry. let's and I know a few of you aren't, but a lot of us are struggling in this arena. And this tax revenue is not guaranteed. So yeah, I would love to speak on this topic more and more and start highlighting this. So I'll pick a day. I'm going to get with the few that I have so far. But as I said before, your homework will be to help get me in touch with any success stories in this arena. And let's showcase those parks, because we're going to showcase parks no matter what. And so who are we showcasing? Why are we showcasing them? Let's make sure maybe we showcase a few very specific parks that are successful in not just being a beautiful park. All of you have beautiful parks. Mother Nature is bringing beauty, and then you're just allowing Mother Nature to be Mother Nature in the city. So yeah, that's going to happen. Everybody's cutting grass. Everybody's, putting on a lot of these needs and stuff. But at the same time, we got to make sure that when we walk into the kitchen, we don't see a kitchen that's just in flames and on fire, and the waiters are just like pretending, it's not happening, and they're hoping that they can keep the people in the dining area blind to the fact that the back of the house is on fire. So let's make sure our back of house is functioning. Finances are good. And if anybody would have come take a tour in the accounting department, they would be impressed. They wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, there's a massive gash in the side of our boat and we're taking on water. Get everybody in the lifeboats kind of scenario playing out. And now, if this is not the case and you're kicking butt, so maybe you're one of the parks we want to highlight. And then maybe if you're one of the struggling parts and you're brave enough to come in here and say, hey, we are currently going through a bankruptcy, or like Liddy, I just inherited a bankruptcy and now And this is how we turned it around. And I already know what she's going to say because we've talked offline about this, and that's a message that needs to be heard about her genius of using third party charitable organizations, nonprofits that were doing the work of Parks and Rec during their worst moments. And instead of saying, hey, Parks and Rec is here, you can stop helping the community, she's like, no, stay. We want to partner because we'd rather you do something than us do something because you're geared for it. You've got all your benefactors geared for it. You've got funding for it. If you want to help deal with, say, the homelessness issue, we don't want to take over your job. We want to help out. We have an old community center that's not very used. Why don't you come work out of this and we'll keep the lights on, pay the electric bill, and you bring in the manpower, the know-how, the wisdom on handling homeless, the benefactors that this is what's close and near and dear to their heart, and you're not draining tax revenue for the manpower. We're just able to provide as a work as a team and create a partnership to be able to handle homelessness issues. And that's just one example of how you can partner with people that are going to do this anyway. Do you realize that if the city government collapses, there are still people that want to help homeless and are going to organize to help them? And these nonprofits are all inside of your communities. You just got to look for them and offer them assistance so that we're not doing duplicative work. You got the city helping the homeless, you got nonprofits helping the homeless, and we're doing the same thing. Is there a way we can partner and become more efficient? Maybe the city is good at owning land and having a building and keeping it functioning because they don't have to pay taxes, and sometimes land is donated and the building's already built. Okay, but a nonprofit, they're not landlords. They're not land acquisition people. They're trying to help, you know, the homeless or whatever it is that their nonprofit's geared towards. Let them do their work, you do your work, and boom, you got a partnership made in heaven. Right. And this is a way we can operate more efficiently. And then so what are the other partnership opportunities out there that we can maybe work as a team and not put so much burden on an already strained park and rec system? So that's one discussion me and Liddy had. There's so many others like that. So anyway, we're going to keep this going. That's one of the values I think that I can bring. That's one of the values I think that seems very obvious. And after talking with Jamie, you can have a 1 hour, 10-minute talk with Jamie, and you're going to understand that this is a pressing issue, and there's way more of this going on than we want to admit. And I'm so glad she's ringing the alarm. And she is not some just consultant that hasn't done this. She was actually a park and rec director for the biggest chunk of her life and understands this problem from the inside out. So highlighting her and others like her, I think is going to be key here. So anyway, we'll go ahead and close it out there. Well, let me give you all a few little updates. This Friday, first YPN, if you are in the Young Professionals Network, we are going to have a Friday show every Friday. Your show is the 12 noon show. It's going to be kind of a panel, and we're going to work out what that content looks like. This is how low I'm setting the bar this Friday. It's going to be a train wreck on Friday. That's it. If we press record and have a terrible show, that's a success. Sometimes you just got to jump. You just got to launch. And then after that show, we'll talk about, well, what can we do to improve? And the second show is going to be a little bit better, and the second Friday. But either way, we'll have 52 Fridays dedicated to YPN. So if you know a young professional in this industry, if you are would like to come onto the show, if you have content suggestions that are more focused on the young professionals of Parks and Recreation, Friday's our day. That's when we create content. That's when we have guests centered around that. Obviously, I'm still pushing on this maintenance show. It's going to be a daily show from 11 to 12, and that's going to be centered on maintenance. I've been putting out feelers and getting a ton of feedback, but I still need more. I still need more superintendents to step up to the plate. I still need more specialists in this industry, in the field of park maintenance and facilities maintenance to come present on what they've mastered. I think our first push, it's just how it turned out, is going to be around urban forestry, caring for our trees in our community, in our parks, and on all the green spaces and common spaces that we have. And it just so happens I have, some masters that are already in my network. So we'll start there, and then we'll go into, of course, I can speak about maintaining sports arena lights and the efficiencies there till the end of time, because that was 2 decades of my life as a lighting engineer and a master electrician. So, and then we've also got Garrett helping me with. He was a former um, maintenance manager for a golf course, and now he's managing an entire facility. But I mean, managing lawns, fighting weeds, spraying chemicals. You might think fighting weeds is a small thing. You know, his budget, his previous budget on some of these golf courses that he manages, like $450,000 worth of chemicals sprayed and needing replenished. Like, imagine just spraying 450 grand worth of chemicals in 3 months, and now you need more. And if you're in the maintenance of these fields, fighting weeds, fighting pests, and growing healthy grass, fighting drainage issues, irrigation issues, it's a huge chunk of parks and recreation. And now we have robotics coming in, and how we paint fields, and how we deal with foot traffic wearing down the grass. I mean, it's the guys that are. My hats off to the guys maintaining beautiful lawns and sports fields and drainage. It is a never-ending war against Mother Nature and everything else. So that's a massive effort of Parks and Recreation that we want to start highlighting. The equipment that we use, the new robotics that's coming in, different resources about all the above when it comes to maintaining that. That's another great field that I know is going to do well. And of course, urban forestry is going to be another great one uh, to talk about. Planting trees, I think there was one. Who was I speaking to yesterday, that they want to say by a certain year they're going to plant 50,000 new trees in somewhat of a desertish area. Um, and he's just super passionate about that. Not just passionate, super knowledgeable about it. So those are some ideas we can throw out there, but we're open to suggestions, anything to do with park maintenance. And that's going to kind of be the direction of the show. So park maintenance going to be happening 11 to 12 soon. Haven't nailed down a launch date. We have nailed down a launch date for YPN. That's this Friday. Going to be every Friday till the end of time. And then of course we have the daily show Monday through Thursday, which is what we're doing right now. And then I am going to find a way to cover this financial sustainability topic. I don't know if it's just going to be a standalone show. Maybe we'll fit it in the maintenance. I might do that as the Friday show before. Matter of fact, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do Financial Fridays, 11 to 12, and then we'll do YPN, 12 to 1. Um, there we go. Yeah, we might do that. And that way, so we'll have 4 maintenance shows Monday through Thursday, and then we'll do the financial leading up to the YPN stuff. That just popped in my head. I think that is giving a little more clarity there. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all I have for y'all today. We have the calendar is getting booked, which is good. That's what we want. Hold on. I want to check. I know we got so much stuff coming up. Well, I thought I just saw the calendar was posted. You'd think I'd have this stuff pulled up by now, so I'll have it ready for y'all tomorrow. But yeah, we have got. I think every day next week is booked, and almost the entire month is booked. So we're actually pushing into March, January, February, March, April, May. And we're pushing into booking on May. So appreciate everybody volunteering to come onto the show, tell us their part. Appreciate all the hard work that's going on behind the scenes. Oh, last thing, I also am launching if you want to help us grow these communities, please volunteer. I'll be just asking people. I've already got a few people that I've asked. We've already created a group chat on LinkedIn where you can just help grow the community. What do I mean by growing the community? Well, number one, getting, maybe 10 heads, 20 heads together and say, how do we grow this community? What does that look like? On what platforms? Are we just talking about more followers on LinkedIn, more followers to the YouTube channel? Are we doing outreaches? I don't know. I just kind of want to get a team together to say, I think right now we've got a good rhythm going into content creation, scheduling, um, good topics that now I think we're ready to just kind of, you know, we're ready for the ball. We put the lipstick on the pig and we're ready to, go to the big ball here. So, if this is something that's interesting to you and you'd like to contribute in that way, that would be a huge help for us. And that way, I don't have to actually uh, make that part of payroll is recruitment and growing network and stuff. I think that's something the community can do is just help us get the word out. Is all we're trying to do. If we're going to produce good content that we feel like is valuable to the community, it's just better if more people see that, because if it's beneficial to the few, it should be beneficial to everyone. What we're trying to create is universally valuable content for all Parks and Rec. That's what we're trying to do. And so, like, let's say we create a great show for the young professionals, then we would want as many young professionals as we can get. If we hit maybe a serious pain point, a serious weak link inside of Parks and Recreation on the financial sustainability topic, we wouldn't want someone that had they seen this content maybe could have righted their ship, but because they were cut off from just knowledge, you don't know what you don't know, and you didn't realize that there was other cities going through this that turned it around, and because they were cut off of that, wouldn't that be a shame? Where had you known a little bit better and had a strong network, maybe had Jamie helping you out with something, we could have fixed this beforehand. So I think right now we're at the point to where, yeah, we want to start growing our followers and stuff. So if you'd like to help out with that, that would be a huge help for us. And it's literally just connecting your friends and network that are already in this industry into something that could be valuable for them. So I think they'll thank you later on. All right. So that's all I have for today. Tomorrow we do have, let's see, our guest tomorrow is Mark. Nope. Mark's already happened. We're in April. And tomorrow's the 3rd. So we have Devin Fredrickson coming on. Oh, this is going to be a good one. Yeah. Derek's got a really cool story. Y'all are going to like this. And then, of course, Friday is our YPN. And then next week's completely slammed. We've got Kate on Tuesday, Ryan Brewer on Wednesday, Brian Myers on Thursday, Robert McGuire on. Oh, I'm gonna have to reschedule Robert because of YPN. Sorry, Robert. I'm gonna reach out to you. We're gonna have to rebook it. Maybe actually, I might have a slot coming up on Monday. Maybe you can reschedule for that. I've got to start blocking out that new Friday slot for YPN. All right, that's all I have for y'all today. Thank y'all so much for listening in, and thank y'all so much for the encouraging words. Every day, somebody on my team, sometimes twice a day, is getting thanks for what we're doing. And so I'm hoping that, obviously you don't want to put your life into something that's not valuable to anybody and you're not helping people out. So if this is helpful to y'all, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm having a blast doing it. I'm loving building a media company for this industry. So my commitment to y'all is, as long as it's valuable, I'm going to keep working my tail off for it. So I appreciate all the support that we're getting from the entire community. And I appreciate all the suggestions that everyone has given us on who needs to come on the show and topics we need to cover, because I would hate for me to create something useless for 2 months before you guys speak up. If I am creating something useless content, tell me so that we can create useful content. Like if we're discovering something that Jamie's raising the red flag around, and she's like, "Hey, this is the thing you want to make content on. I know it's going to be valuable for them. Might not be popular. Okay, now I'm on to something, and now we'll work hard to create something valuable for this community. If it's useless and they're like, Craig, appreciate it, but it's not something we're interested in, let me know. We'll make a pivot. I want to build. I want to build something with market feedback, and we want to have a tight feedback loop. So you need to get the consumers of our content to speak up and say, we love it, make this change, make content about this, have this one on the show. This is going to be valuable to us. And then we're just creating the platform that accomplishes all that. My job really is to show up, go live, hook up all the mics, schedule it all, polish up the content. That's our job. But this is really y'all's channel. And so we want to build what y'all want when we're doing this. So again, thank y'all for all the help. This is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman with the daily Parks and Rec show every weekday, 12 noon. We will be here again tomorrow. You guys have an awesome week. Love you. See you tomorrow. Oh, hold on. I'm not ready to leave y'all just yet because I did not switch my media asset. And of course, I've got to tell you all about the LED lights that y'all can buy from us because that's how we're funding all this. So go buy some LED lights so that you can put some fuel in our tank so we can keep this going. Love you guys. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.